Cool. Hi, everyone. My name's Debs. I'm the director of Anara Publishing, and I'm so pleased to be joined by Georgia Black today, who joined our roster back in June 2021. Georgia's a contemporary jazz and blues singer from North London and is fresh from her release of her latest single, No Escape, in August. So to kick things off, Georgia, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your sort of songwriting journey so far in your career?
So, I've been writing since I was really young. I mean, to be fair, some of my songs when I was a little girl were absolutely terrible, so I won't be showing those to anyone ever. But I've always had the buzz to kind of like write lyrics since I was probably around 12. And that's around the age I started kind of realising I wanted to sing. And then I've had a bit of a funny journey. Like when I left college when I was 18, I just ended up in like different projects and kind of like been on tour, and then I've been in the theatre, and kind of up until the last few years was never really able to like fully focus on like my own writing properly. That's always just taken a back seat. But now I'm just like fully just trying to get my head like into just writing my own stuff. I'm so influenced by so many different genres of music, so I'm always up for trying different things. But yeah, in terms of my own writing, I've only properly started releasing like my stuff in I'd say in the last few years. But I've written since I was 12, but we won't look at those songs from back there.
Who would you say has been your greatest influence on your music?
It's really difficult to kind of hone in on just one, like, and pick one artist. I'd say in terms of like just presence and performance, Shirley Bassey's been a massive influence on me. I just think she's incredible, like just the way that, because she's always been just like tiny. She's like this tiny little woman, and then on stage, she just completely commands an audience. And her voice, how she can produce that sound, I've just always thought she's absolutely incredible. But yeah, I mean, I'm really influenced by like Etta James, Peggy Lee. I love Lauryn Hill. I grew up listening to the Fugees and Lauryn Hill. I was also massively influenced by hip hop. Like I love Missy Elliott. Yeah, I've had a lot of influences really, but yeah, I think Shirley Bassey's been like a really big one, I'd say.
Yeah, nice. A lot of really like strong role models there as well, like strong female role models. What would you how would you kind of approach your songwriting process now when you're writing songs for yourself? What does that look like?
Generally, I mean, every song is different, but I have come to realise that I think my main songwriting process is kind of coming up with the melody first. And yeah, it's basically just kind of like making like sounds like with the melody, maybe not knowing what the song is going to be about right away, but because of kind of like the shapes of the sounds that are coming out, and some words come out, it just ends up being kind of like mumble juice, but in the shape of like a melody, and then I end up kind of piecing it together after. But so I feel like just the subconscious mind, creates like random words, and then afterwards you can kind of listen back and go, okay, well, maybe this is what I want to write about, and then I kind of piece it together after. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's different if you're writing to brief, like if someone's like, this is what the song needs to be about. But just in terms of my own stuff, yeah, just starts off with absolute mumble juice.
Do you have like regular writers and producers that you work with as more of a team to then go and develop that song?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a number of producers over the years. At the moment, I'm really trying to do it myself. But yeah, there are select producers I've worked with on and off over the past few years, and it's been strange during lockdown because you've not really been able to properly get in I mean, obviously now you can, but over the past 19 months, hasn't it? I've just had people send me beats and stuff, and then I've written to them, which I'm also happy to do, but I do feel there is this, I really like the organic process of creating something together in the room with the producer. I much prefer doing that than being like, oh yeah, send me a beat and then, you know, I'll do something. Although that has worked out quite well in the past year or so as well, because one of my releases, Invisible Enemy, was with a producer called Josh Wolf, and we were about to start working together, and then that just couldn't happen because we went into lockdown. We had our first session booked in the first week of lockdown, and then yeah, that all just went tits up.
Yeah, it's really interesting hearing people's like thoughts on the positives and the negatives of working remotely, and how, yeah, you can collaborate on a song without being together, but it'd be so much better if we could just be in a room and like vibe off each other. And yeah, so interesting. What would you say is like a pivotal moment in your career so far?
Yeah, as soon as I finished college, I ended up in this band with Mick Jones from The Clash, and it was the official Agent Provocateur. I don't know if you know Agent Provocateur, the lingerie brand. It was the official show band, because basically the guy who owned it, Joe Corey, he used to own it with his ex-wife Serena, and basically Joe Corey's mum is Vivienne Westwood and his dad is Malcolm McLaren, who's managed Sex Pistols, and so he always wanted to bring fashion and music together, and that's what this project was all about. And like he wrote the songs with like a select few producers, but then when it came to like doing the actual shows and, you know, and like the tours and stuff, they wanted people involved with that stuff, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I feel anyway. I was working with one of the producers on that project, Steve Sharples, and somebody called Fly. Well, we call him Fly Garrick. His name's Stephen Garrick. But yeah, I had no idea that they were talking about me to Joe and like the creative director of that project, and then it all just kind of happened, and I got some really great experience, and I was thrown in the deep end. I mean, first gig we did was at the Borderline in around Tottenham Court Road area. The second gig we did was I did, not them, was Berlin Fashion Week. So that was in Berlin, and that was about 2,000 people. And then the third gig, and this was literally like the third gig I had ever done after leaving college, was in Vienna in front of 50,000 people. So it literally just went boom, boom, boom for me. But, you know, it was a great, I would say, even though I was quite young then, it was definitely a pivotal moment in my career, because if I hadn't done that, I don't think I would have had the confidence and motivation to be like, this is definitely what I want to be doing.
Yeah, that's such a good experience, and like you said, like really thrown you into the deep end. What made you decide to look for a publisher?
I started distributing my music through Horus Music, which is obviously one of your it's your sister company, and then the main person there that I liaised with about my stuff said, why don't you get in touch with Anara, and said that they would speak to you guys as well. And then I didn't really expect anything to come for it, so I was really chuffed when it did. So thanks, Horace. Thanks, Nia.
Yeah. Thanks, Nia. Yeah, we're so glad to have found you as well, so it worked out well. How important do you think publishing is as a whole to indie artists, musicians? It's an area of the industry that I feel doesn't have like that big a part of the conversation, but like, how important do you think it is?
I think it's really important because, as I'm sure you know, it's really difficult to sustain a living just like from music, and especially as like, again, we've just been in a pandemic, nobody's been gigging. Who knows when something like that can happen? With publishing, if you are writing, releasing, or writing for other people, there is a living to be made, through your songwriting and through, sync, and you just never know. Like if your music gets into I don't know, an iPhone advert, for example, or like a major feature film, you know, you're laughing really, you know, in terms of royalties or buyout fees or whatever. And, you know, and even with that, you know, people start, it leads people to your music because they Shazam it and stuff like that. And I just think publishing is so, you know, at the right time, it's just so important because, yeah, and speaking for myself, I love performing, I really do, but I don't, you know, I'd like to think that I would never want to retire. I'd never want to stop making music. But I also don't think at 70, 75, I don't think I'm going to be wanting to be doing like massive tours, but I would love to be still writing and recording, or just sitting back and, you know, taking in what I've already done. So yeah, it is definitely an important part of being an artist or just songwriter in general. 100%.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, it opens so many doors that you might not necessarily have thought about, you know, maybe writing for other people or collaborating, or like you said, when, you know, you're not gigging anymore, there's revenue there to kind of be collected and stuff. So
yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to aspiring songwriters looking to launch their career in 2021?
Basically, I'd just say be true to yourself. You know, don't try and write in a way that other people want you to. Obviously, you know, if you're writing to a brief, then yeah, you know, you've got to kind of stick to the brief, but you can still do that in your own style, if that makes any sense at all. I just think, you know, it's important to kind of like just know yourself and just stick to kind of what makes the way that you write and how that makes your song special, and just don't try to write in a way that somebody else does. You know, be true to yourself, basically.
Yeah, it's quite funny because that's the advice that I always say to people as well, is like, a lot of people get obsessed with the idea of sync and having to fit in a certain box in order to be successful, but my advice is the same, is like, make sure that you are doing it so it's true to yourself, and then it will resonate with the right people and you'll find the right team that will fall in love with your music and be able to find the opportunities for you anyway. So yeah, definitely think it's so important. And sort of like, to wrap up, what's next for you next year? Do you have any plans for new music?
I do. I have plans for a lot of new music, actually. I was hoping to release an EP this year, but I've decided to hold off on it because I really just want to get a huge body of work together before I just start going bang, 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 and releasing stuff. I just want everything ready, and there's so many songs there, and I'm in the writing process at the moment, so I just want there to be loads there, so because I feel like there's been too many gaps between releases for me, and the next thing I released, I just want the next thing to be ready to follow, and then after that, and then after that, and after that. So yes, there's a lot coming, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, so are we. Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and I will hopefully see you soon.